Disclaimer. The content presented in this video is solely focused on airguns and does not involve real firearms. All activities, discussions, and demonstrations are related to airguns only. We urge YouTube reviewers and viewers to take note that the content is in compliance with YouTube's community guidelines, as it does not promote or involve real firearms in any capacity. Thank you for understanding. Disclaimer. The methods and procedures demonstrated in this video are based on my personal experience and are shared as an example of how I approached and solved a specific problem. This is not a tutorial. If you decide to replicate or attempt any actions shown in this video, you do so at your own risk. I am not responsible for any damage to items, harm to individuals, or any other potential negative outcomes. Always consult with professionals or seek expert advice before attempting any task or modification. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Young Hang Hot Rod Shop.
We've got a killer part 2 in the ultimate Notos build. You guys are going to absolutely love this episode. So hang on and let's take a moment and thank those that make this content possible. These are the guys that actually financially support the channel. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Your contribution is greatly appreciated. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Young Hang Hot Rod Shop. Today is part 2 of the ultimate Notos. And what I'm trying to achieve here is really just getting the Notos to submit to my will and to give me the kind of shooting experience I really want. And I know in part 1, I said it was a box stock Notos. And that is absolutely true of everything that is centered around propelling a pellet downrange. That whole part of the gun has been untouched. But some of the more observant folks who watch that may have noticed I did have a folding stock on mine. I also had risers on the scope, and the risers are on here honestly because for me personally, when I shoulder this gun, this stock puts my cheek and my eye in a position that's too high up for the optic when it's mounted down on this rail. To me, this axis should have been much lower. Probably 3/4 of an inch to an inch lower would have made this just right. And that would have really improved the ergonomics of this for me. So I know putting it on risers like this does space the axis of the optic away from the axis of the bore, and that's not the best solution. But I gotta tell you, this thing shoots tremendously well, and it shoulders tremendously well for me with the risers on there. So I'm going to put a link to these risers in the comments, or actually in the description of the video for you, so it's easy to find. I do think they're a great solution. These raise the scope up 0.92 inches taller than it was originally. And I think that makes this much more pleasant for me to shoot, and probably for a number of you as well. So I just wanted to address that first off. The next step in this gun adventure is pulling this barrel out and getting the moderator machined off the end of this barrel. Now, I am going to use the lathe, this lathe right behind us, this famous lathe that was formerly owned by Neil Clague, who kindly enough sold it to the Airgun geeks for us to use in our adventures. But the first thing we need to do on our Notos to make it safe to work on, we need to get rid of the air in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull off this cap, and it will come off. It does interfere the last little bit, and interferes with the moderator, but it's plastic. It's got some give in it. It'll go. And you see we have a manometer here, a gauge. I really love these Knipex pliers, the true parallel, non-marring jaws. They are great at getting a very controlled, very tight grip on flats and using it as a wrench. And what you're going to do is you're going to loosen this just a little bit, just until you just start to hear it start to leak. And then just put it down, let it sit. Just let it leak out slowly. Don't go unscrewing this once you hear the air escaping, because there's still a lot of air in there and it's going to take a while for it to bleed down. Be mindful, keep an eye on the gauge, let it bleed all the way down. When it's all done, your gun is safe. There's no more worries, but leave this loose just in case some clown comes in and tries to put air in it while you're in between cycles of working on it. You don't want to have it be unsafe at any point. But once that's done, the next thing is removing this barrel assembly. And this is actually really easy. All you need is a good, and I mean good, quality M3 and M2.5 Allen key. And the reason I say good ones, if you look at yours and they're a little rounded on the corners or whatever, honestly, don't use them. Either grind them back so that they're sharp again, or throw them away and get some new ones. There's no sense putting up with bad tools. And please, for the life of Patrick, do not use the ball ends for loosening or tightening fasteners. That's not what these ball ends are meant for. They're not meant to transmit a lot of torque. They have a very, very nasty habit of rounding out fasteners and also snapping the ball off the wrench. So, that's my pro tip. Don't use these for tightening. But you have a button head screw in the top of this pick rail. And what you're going to do is you're going to loosen that up and basically get that screw out of the way. And you say, well, okay, Bill, now I can just pull this off, right? Not so fast. No. Clever construction here. Hidden down underneath that screw is another one. That's what the 2.5 millimeter Allen key is for. Make sure that wrench is seated all the way down inside. This is a grub screw, a set screw. Grub screws are notorious for either cracking, and when they crack, they tend to hang up in the hole and you can't get them out, or people don't get enough purchase of the tool in the set screw and they end up rounding it out. And once they round out the top of it, now your strength is reduced by a half. So the next time you might not get it out. So do make sure you get your Allen key all the way down in that set screw and then loosen it up. Once you get it really loose, then you can flip this around and use the ball end, no problem, because there's no real torque on this now. We're going to back this out. We don't need to come all the way out. And presto, our barrel and everything else comes right off of there. It's a barrel bushing. Put that aside. Take the pick rail assembly off. Put that aside. And now we have the barrel and the moderator. And our next step is going to be to chalk this up in the lathe. And what I'm going to try and do is come up with dimensions to share, maybe on the Target Forge website, but definitely in the description of this video. I'm going to share the locations. Inside of this molded plastic for the moderator are 2 retaining rings. That the retaining rings were put on the barrel. There are grooves in the barrel for the retaining rings. And then this was molded over them. So this is not meant to be taken apart easily. There's definitely a challenge to getting to these. And some guys have tried hacksawing and grinding and everything else. What I'm going to try and do is tell you where dimensionally you have a good chance of finding those snap rings. And then you can either use a Dremel. If you don't have a lathe, you can use a Dremel to go after them and just kind of expose in the line that I tell you to go to, where that retaining ring is. It's a much easier way of getting those rings out of your way and then getting this moderator off. The other thing, as I said in part 1 of this video, I'm going to try and actually save this moderator. I'm going to go cut only what I need to get access to the first and second snap rings. And then we're going to try and thread the back of this to a half 20 thread so that this moderator can be used on other guns, maybe this gun again. So join me. We're going to get set up in the lathe here. The next view you're going to see is me on the lathe with this assembly. Okay, everybody, the cutter I'm using today is just a standard cutoff tool with a replaceable carbide bit. The reason I'm using the wrong tool for this job, honestly, is because I don't have a cutter with a cutter on the other side cutting away from the chuck. And I don't want to mess around with the ones that I have. And honestly, this is plastic, so I don't think we're in any danger of creating any havoc here. One thing I wanted to do was to put a pair of magnets on here and see where they wanted to be. And honestly, right in the center of these magnets should be the first retaining ring. So what I'm going to do is get a pencil and just make a mark where that is. Again, it wants to be centered on that mass of that ring. So that's about where it is. I'm also going to grab a pair of calipers and grab that dimension for you guys. I think the center of the first ring is about 100 thousandths of an inch in from the end. So let's get to cutting. It's going to come in and touch and just side cut very, very lightly. Just trying to get rid of some of this material. Uh-oh. That sounds like we may have hit pay dirt. Just touching the top of that retaining ring, you can see the shiny part. That's probably where the two holes are for releasing the snap ring. And there we have it. Get our friends the knife picks in here. See if they can't persuade this clip to give up its hold. And there we have it. One ring successfully deconfigurated. So now we're going to go after the other ring. I know roughly how far it is, but not exactly. So we're just going to take some small cuts and try to sneak up on it. Uh-oh, I think we got it. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Yep, you can see that little bit of silver right there. I need to take one more little cut to come in behind the ring on the other side. And there it is. There's our second ring. And there is your other retaining ring. And there we have it, folks. One officially removed Notos moderator. Sorry about the audio for this, but it seems that the variable speed supply or the variable speed drive for this lathe is quite noisy. Hopefully the filtering can take some of that out. I just wanted to get an idea how true the bore was to the outside diameter of this moderator. It actually is really good. Wow. That's outstanding. What that means is that I can grab this on the end and machine the hole larger and then tap it for a threaded insert and actually save this moderator. I think there's enough depth in the material to do it. Anyway, let's give that a whirl, see how it goes. We'll get this flipped around. I have a dowel in that moderator that fits very snugly along the inside of the baffles. And it is remarkably true to the outside of the moderator. That's the only thing that's going to make this possible. Change tool bits real quick. Just do a little finish cut. Sorry about the camera movement there. Going to touch that edge with a file. This is the Easy Lock thread repair kit. I'm going to drill the back of that moderator out this dimension, the diameter, the depth of one of these inserts, and then we're going to tap it. We're going to use this tool to insert it. Let's see how it goes. We've got a black mark on the drill bit right there for my depth. I'm not going to do this part under power. Just going to use this to guide the tap. We do want to get a mark on our tap so we know how far in we need to go. Well, it's like we got a thread in there now. Put our insert on the tool. Tap out of the way. Replace that with our tool. And there you have it, folks. Not only did we remove the moderator from the Notos, but we saved it to live another day. Looks like they had some porosity in their injection molding. Oh well, I'm so stoked. Another moderator for the collection. Now, you guys, I'm going to rely on you not to tell Neil that I made such a mess on his lathe. I'll clean this up later. I want to go ahead and install the Plenum kit. I know what you're thinking. What has this old fool done now? Well, I couldn't just put bare aluminum parts on a gun. That's something wrong with that. So I had these anodized locally. Honestly, don't follow me down this road because it was not a financially prudent decision. However, it is going to look really awesome. See how that moderator fits in. Nice. Super happy with that. That works really well. Now let's get our purple plenum on. Plenum goes onto the original reservoir. Reservoir goes back on the gun. So that up. Cap back on. No. There is a little dimple on this barrel you have to have clocked at 12 o'clock. Nice thing is that it's conical. So we get it close for now. We can actually dial it in using the grub screw. Just going to bring it down until it touches and back it off a little bit. I want to be able to rotate this barrel back and forth. Make sure I'm centered in that little divot. I'm not going to kill this. Just going to snug it. There's no point in putting undue stress on these fasteners. And there you have it, folks. You know what would be perfect on this gun? How about a matching moderator? Yeah. This one here is some impulse air. Nice. Now we'll get the scope back on this, air it up, and recheck our accuracy numbers. See how we're doing. We'll try it with both moderators too. I am liking the look of that. What do y'all think? Leave a comment down in the comments below. I think this build's coming out pretty darn nice. There's more though. We're not done. We're not even close to being done. But I did promise that we would check the basic stats like velocity stability, and also accuracy as we proceeded with this. I'm not touching the back end of the gun at all yet. I will eventually come in and do one of my famous Notos trigger jobs on there. But, I got to tell you, folks, YouTube fights me every step of the way. And as soon as I put up this first video in the series, where all I did was shoot some groups with this, they already took away the advertising. They said it's not approved for advertiser use. And I'm like, that's absurd. So I challenged it. And I did ultimately win this one, but, it's 50-50 or worse going forward with the odds on getting YouTube to allow advertising, which is the only way I get paid. Unless you decide to become a member of the channel, support me on Patreon, or go one of those routes. That's the only thing that makes the train keep her rolling. Anywho, next up is going to be accuracy. We'll do that tomorrow with some daylight and see where it's at. Okay, this is going to be an audio recording to compare no moderator, the impulse air with 3 chambers or 3 stages installed, and the Neil Clague. Here is no moderator. One more. This is the Notos moderator. Impulse air. and the Neil Clague. That was ridiculous. The recording really doesn't do this comparison justice. I got to come up with a better technique for recording this. But I got to tell you, the difference was astonishing. The Neil Clague was so much quieter than everything else in this test. I was absolutely blown away. Here's the accuracy results. Group 1 is 0.392. Group 2 is 0.426. 3 is 0.533, 4 is 0.536 for an average of 0.471, which is better than before. And now we come to the real coup de grace here. This is the Neil Clague silencer coming in at 0.388. That is just remarkable to me. For those with the testicular fortitude to stick with me all this time, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now let's look at this. This is the velocity data off of my lab radar. And I think what it shows us is the gray line represents the Plenum edition. The orange line is the original data. And I definitely see a difference in the stability of the regulator. The regulator seems to really like that plenum space to do its job. It definitely seems to regulate tighter. You do get a lot more energy per shot. This is going almost 50 feet per second faster with the addition of the plenum. Now, did I get a bunch more shots? No, I didn't get a bunch more, but I got a lot more energy. If you look at the change in velocity over time, I still got 5 and more shots than I had before. But I think the real story here is the stability and what I could get if I backed off that hammer spring just a little bit. Remember, friends, be a light in the darkness. Do go get yourself a Neil Clague moderator. He does amazing work, and I am absolutely blown away with his workmanship. And go fly some pellets. You'll have fun, I promise.